Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures at Outperform. I'm Frank Wander and I'm here with my co-host Terri Mays. Today we're going to be covering the next chapter in our series on People Unproductive. We're talking about the ticking time bomb. Hope you've tuned into the series. There's some really good personality types and people that make work very unproductive. You should understand how to spot them, how to work with them. Listen to this series. You'll learn all you need to know. So, Tara, why don't you introduce yourself quickly?
Hello, I'm Terri Mays, a certified culture engineer with emphasis on helping companies bring out the best in their people.
As I said earlier, I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder of PeopleUnproductive, and we help companies use the time, talent, energy of their people most effectively so that they do indeed create a culture that outperforms. And, in cultures that outperform, you really don't have many ticking time bombs floating around. Some companies have a lot more of them because of the way they manage the place. And in some companies, people don't really know how to spot them and deal with them. And certainly ticking time bombs exist. We've got a mental health crisis going on. There are a lot of people struggling out there. That puts them on edge, can make them a ticking time bomb. You should be able to know and spot the signs of somebody who's really on edge. And then they're just people with short fuses. I mean, they're out there. And you should really understand who's who, what the personality types are. And if you're a leader, you want to diffuse situations. You want to make sure that these ticking time bombs don't go off. You might want to bring people in, coach, give them a chance to decompress a little, send them away for a few days, whatever it is. You want to get out in front of it. So you should be very observant. But Tara, have you seen many ticking time bombs in your time?
I have seen ticking time bombs, and I've noticed that people have kind of this emotional response, whether they're making these loud outbursts or they're crying about everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of like you have one conversation and the whole world is falling apart based on that one thing. Or you feel like, that wasn't really a big ask, or that wasn't really a tough question. Why
Mm-hmm.
is this person responding to me with such a big response, such an emotional response? Those are usually signals that this isn't really about what just happened. It's not about the question you just asked. This person has been ticking for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
that just happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back. So people have a fuse, and some of us have long fuses, some of us have shorter fuses. But once you start piling things on and people feel like they're getting overwhelmed, they're overstressed, overworked, there's only so long that people can flow in that space before they just crack under the pressure. You really do have to be a leader that pays attention to people and recognize those signs that people are being stressed. And like Frank said, sometimes you just have to tell people, hey, why don't you take the rest of the day off? You
Yeah.
you may need to recuperate, and help people recognize those signs in themselves. Being self-aware really does help you with that, so that you know your own boundaries, you know your own limitations. I know when it's time for me to take a break. My body starts telling me, and if I'm paying attention, I'll respond and take that break so that I can recharge. When I start getting snippy and I'm
Mm-hmm.
short with people, because that's not typically the way that I respond, that's usually a signal that you need some rest. You need to relax and take your mind off of whatever you're working on and get some time to recuperate. Stephen Covey really does a great job talking about that, sharpening the saw. It's so important. You can't just continue to use that saw and let it get dull and not take the time to sharpen it. Because once you take that time to recharge,
Mm-hmm.
you're able to get things done much faster and with much higher quality. So you need that time. You don't want to just keep pushing it. And don't let people around you continue to be in that state where they're just continuing to push it and
Mm-hmm.
push it a little bit further and a little bit further. Like, as a leader, recognize that when people are getting stressed, and do something about it.
Yeah, you can see when people are getting stressed and burning out. Actually, under stress, the body releases cortisol. Cortisol is what leads people to be totally stressed out. They become anxious. And, when it builds up in the bloodstream, this is what will cause them to actually be the ticking time bomb. And you
Mhm.
don't want to be adding stress to it. You want to understand your culture. You want to have your finger on the pulse. You want to know if people are getting stressed out. Are there too many demands? Are people being overstressed with work? Are things piling up? Nothing is getting done because the place is not calibrated for work very well. So things aren't really happening. People feel like they're getting further and further behind, and then you add stress from their personal life into it. You can have a very explosive situation.
Yes.
And you've got to be aware of this. I've seen people lose it quite a few times over the years. And there were always signs that this person was getting to the breaking point. I've had to tell people, look, go take a walk and then go home, get some exercise, get out of here, get some fresh air, come back tomorrow. You're looking a little stressed out. I know we've been crazy busy lately. I think
Yeah.
probably a good moment for you to take a break. And
Yeah, as a leader, you do have to be very observant. You can't just let it go. You can't just ignore the signs that are there. Unfortunately, we've seen some really horrible things play itself out in workplace violence because of it,
Mhm.
because people weren't paying attention to the people around them because they had their own thing going on, and we all have our own thing going on, but we really cannot be so involved in what we're working on that we lose sight of the people around us. It's really important to pay attention and observe those signs and do something about what you see. And a lot of times, just taking that time to communicate with that person and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I noticed that you were a little short or you were a little emotional about what just happened. Let's talk about it." Taking the time with that person as a leader really does show that you care. And a lot of times, that's all that's needed is for somebody to just show that they care
100%.
person as opposed to just the task. So when you show you care about the person, immediately you kind of get this sense of relief like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that, or, I'm sorry. And they kind of explain this is what's going on. And you really create a wonderful relationship with that person where they feel like they can be transparent about what they're going through and then provide that support for them. Sometimes I can say for sure that many times my employers have been awesome about recognizing the need for me to have a different work life balance. So when my kids were younger, I always had managers that understood. They never gave me a hard time about needing to take time off. Or when they were really young, I worked 4 10-hour days. So I was off on Tuesdays,
Mhm. That's great.
just anything to try to help balance things out. You have to do that for people. You really do, because whether or not we like it, people are not robots. As much as we want people to just be these
Yeah,
robots that show up to work every day and just do what they're told and then leave, it's just not, it doesn't work that way. People bring everything that's happening in their personal life, their work life, it's all a mesh. So you
absolutely.
have to teach people how to balance it out, and then you have to encourage them to do so. Sometimes people just don't feel safe enough to ask for help, or they don't feel safe like they can talk about it because somebody may use that information against them. So make sure that people feel safe enough to open up and share what's going on.
Yeah, and, be compassionate, like Terry said earlier. You've gotta be compassionate. That really helps heal a lot of things. But,
Yes.
you wanna create a culture that works well. You wanna understand how to run a place that is efficient and effective. You wanna manage the demands that come in. You wanna manage, meetings and things so you don't waste tons of people's time so that they're left with huge piles of work to do, feeling like at the end of the day they got nothing done. If you see people showing signs of stress, you can also take something off their plate. Oftentimes, people are given lots of things to do. People don't really know how complex it is. People dig in, they have something far more complex or group of things far more complex than somebody else. You may have somebody who is just too much of a go-to person. Maybe you don't have the right talent, and you keep loading more and more on this A player while other people are just not pulling their weight. I've seen all these things happen. So this does come down to a large degree to leadership. People do end up getting stressed out because they have a lot of things going on in their personal life. They probably need to take time off and go address some of those things if that's the case and it's not work related. But work is a big piece of life and it always adds stress to people. And when the workplace isn't managed well, it's not actually efficient. It's harder to get work done. And you have plenty of managers who are young, they're inexperienced, they say yes to everything. Oh yeah, we'll take care of that for you because they want to be a good guy or good gal, be the hero. And they don't push back on things and really say, look, we've got X amount to do. We're a little overtasked already. Let's talk about scheduling when we can get this done for you. Instead of just saying, yeah, we'll take care of that, no problem, so that they look good. You see that too, especially with junior people who don't know how to push back, don't know how to really manage and lead. And you got to be a leader. You got to look out for your people. You got to make sure that they're not this tool that's just being overused and abused. And maybe then you won't get the ticking time bombs blowing up in your shop. It's very important.
That's right. Very important. Marcella, will you bring up the key takeaways? So we've talked a lot about these personalities that you find in the workplace and just different situations. We're talking about this unproductive personality where they're really just an accident waiting to happen. They're an explosion waiting to happen, whether it's some emotional outburst or through crying or yelling or cussing and having a tantrum in the middle of the room. In the office, you've got somebody that's just laying into somebody else because they're angry about something. All of those are just situations that you want to avoid. And there are ways that you can do that by being observant and having compassion, like Frank mentioned earlier. You really do have to recognize when people are stressed. Like, really pay attention to the people that are on your teams, people that are around you, your peers, your bosses, even, it doesn't have to be just a leader. Sometimes you can recognize that your manager is stressed.
Oh,
Say
yeah, absolutely.
say something, show that you care about that person because
Coworker could be
it
your
really
coworker.
does make a
You could be
difference.
the leader.
Exactly. It could be your own peer. Just pull them off to the side. You don't have to make a scene. Just pull them off to the side and say, "Hey, I just wanted to check on you. You seemed a little stressed today, or you were a little short. Is everything okay?" Sometimes people will put a wall up, but sometimes you'll be surprised how people will feel love and respect from somebody reaching out and really caring about them, that turns causes them to just kind of melt and say, "You know what? I am having a tough time." And they may need that person to talk to. So be that listening ear for people and offer your support. Try to help manage the situation. Don't just observe and then judge or sit back and be critical about it. Try to offer your help to help that person navigate whatever it is that they're trying to navigate, whether it's through helping them directly or pointing them to resources that can help them. Even most companies now have services that you can get through your employer benefits, well-being packages, all kinds of things that are now more common than they used to be. Encourage people to take advantage of those packages that are available to them, because trying to manage that stress by yourself, it's not working. So make sure they understand what your expectations are. Make sure they understand that what they're doing is not acceptable and hold them accountable for that. You want to make sure that you're quickly addressing those issues, because it's not okay to be
Oh, yeah.
emotionally.
Address them in advance. Spot them.
Yes, it's not okay to be an emotional roller coaster and everybody around you is now walking on eggshells because they don't know what person is going to show up to work today. That's just not okay. People
Not
should
okay to
not
wait
have to
till
have that stress.
it's not okay to wait till the clock says 9 seconds till explosion.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is exactly right. Like,
Don't
you
go to
you
your
really
coworker at that moment. You're not gonna be happy about it.
right. So your move this week is to work to make changes. Oh, that is just so wrong. Man,
That's Hey,
we were on
listen,
a roll.
yeah, you've done it perfectly every week. Don't worry about it. Your
We were
move
on
is to
such a
spot
roll,
your
but
your
that
move
is
is to
not the
become
move.
aware of these situations and see if you can intervene and help somebody before they get to this point.
Yes, much better move than talking about what we talked about last week.
Yeah, yeah. That was it's first time for everything. Oh, well,
Yes.
that
The
is really
beauty of life.
the beauty of live. So
Yes.
next week we're going to talk about don't bother me, that personality who's got the force field around them even though they or somebody you probably need help from. And who are these people? How do you approach them? You know, how do you deal with these people when they're in the organization? Because they're out there.
Yes.
So I would say tune in next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We're here and we're going to be covering another unproductive personality type. We have more to come after that. There's so many in the workplace. It's kind of fun to talk about them because it's better to talk about them than work with them, I would say, right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That is very, very true.
very true. Well, I guess it's bye for now. We'll see you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. You take care.
Yes. Bye for now.